everyone, Craig Ripley here. Welcome once again to Living Off the Slab. So today I'm enjoying a beautiful day out here on my deck, and I thought that what I would do is kind of get caught up on some of the videos that I had been promising over the last few months. In particular, I want to give you an update on this, which is the Cardo PackTalk system, which is the communication system that we're going to be using when Peter, myself, and Steven head up to Alaska. So if you remember back from that video I did over the winter, when we were talking about why we were upgrading from this unit, which is the Scala G9, and why we were moving to this new Cardo PackTalk system, right? I discussed about how, being that this is a Bluetooth networking system, that there are some drawbacks or some restrictions to using these units, right? Primarily, if you drop one of your riders that you're in communication with, it can be a pain to reconnect them, right? It's a manual process, and again, it can sometimes be very frustrating. And I've heard the same complaints from people who use other devices as well, right? The Sena devices as well, right? They are Bluetooth units as well, or at least they have been in the past, and they have the same kind of complaints I've heard from the users of that, right? You drop a connection, it's hard to get reestablished, right? All of these units have their pluses and minuses, and they have their quirks. However, overall, we were pretty satisfied with these units. When my wife and I were using it by ourselves, they were great. I mean, we're right next to each other. We don't have any problem losing communication. It's only when you start to get separation between the riders that you really have a problem. Because even though these have a mile range, what we found out is that it's a line of sight kind of a thing. If you get on a twisty road where you're out of sight of the other rider, well, you can lose connections very easily. And this happens to us a lot when we're on group rides. Like, I'm often the trail rider, the sweep rider, and I'm in communication with the guy who's leading. And if we get stretched out, said on a twisty road, well, we can drop communication, and then we have to go through this process of reconnecting. And that was the primary reason that we decided to go with this new unit from Cardo, right? This is the Scala PackTalk, right? And it uses now what is called a DMC, or Dynamic Meshwork Communication Network. And this is a self-healing network. Once you establish the network with up to 15 riders, right, then the riders can go in and out of the network seamlessly, and you don't need to manually reconnect. Here's the unit mounted on the helmet that I'm going to take to Alaska. And I'm going to refer you back to my previous video on the mounting process here, but just let me say that it is extremely simple. It's much more simple than it was on the old G9 units, right? This clip system that they have now, much easier to install. So that's a big plus. Also, I think the operation of this system has been simplified as well. They now have this big roller bar up here that serves for your volume adjustment, as well as you can tap it or double tap it to get to various functions about the unit, particularly the voice functions. Double tap the roller bar here, and then you can get into your voice functions and run the unit that way. And so far, that works pretty good. Much more stable than the old units. Now, I have also found that the quality of sound from this new PackTalk unit is also improved. Right, the sound quality in the G9 units, well, you know, it was okay, but this is much, much better. And even though I did upgrade the speakers in this helmet, which I'm sure plays some role in that, everybody else in my riding club, and including my wife, now says the voice quality is much more clear with this unit. These units do still support the Bluetooth network. We have been trying to use the new DMC network exclusively. And that is because, one, we can have more riders hooked up to it, and also, once we get the network established, we don't have to worry about connecting and reconnecting like we did with the Bluetooth network. Again, that's what I mentioned earlier. And we found that to be absolutely true, right? Much, much easier. Now, you do still lose communication, right? People still do drop in and out, but they reconnect immediately, again, without anybody having to make any kind of manual intervention, right? You still have that line of sight kind of a thing. If you get stretched out, where you've got a rider in front and a rider in back that's communicating, well, again, you still will lose communication every once in a while, but it gets reestablished quite easily. One cool thing here is that you can control these units with this new Cardo app. Now this was true and this was available for the old G9s, but it's been improved, and I think being that you now have this DMC network, this now makes a big difference and makes it a lot easier to pair devices. So from this new app, you can actually see all of the groups that you create. Right, and then you can see the members that are involved within those groups. You can see here I have one group that's created for what is called the MBVR, that's the Massachusetts Bay Victory Riders, and another for our Alaska trip. I'm not going to go over all of the app here or all the functionality that's contained in these units, right? That would just take way too long, right? But I'm going to give you an overview here of, I guess, what we've been finding with this units, the good things and the bad. First, let's talk about usability, right? Are these two units, the G9 and the PackTalk, compatible? Can you use the two units simultaneously? For example, when I first bought this, my wife didn't have one. She was using the G9. So we put them in Bluetooth mode, linked them up, and they work just fine. So the second way to make these units talk to each other is via what's called the Cardo Bridge. And that is, there's this bridge program that allows you to add one of these units into the DMC network. What you do is you create a Bluetooth communication on channel B between this device and your G9, and then you put this unit into DMC mode, and then you can use the bridge to add in whatever unit is linked to your Bluetooth channel B. And again, my wife and I did that as well, and when it was just she and I on the network together, it worked great. Where we started to run into a little bit of trouble was when we tried to add more people into the DMC. Right? For example, my wife, we decided to upgrade her to one of the new PackTalk units. Right, so we had her in the DMC, and then I had one other gentleman, Rob, who was our ride leader. So it was myself, Kathy, and Rob in the DMC. However, we were having trouble hearing my wife, Kathy, right? She couldn't really hear us very well. We couldn't hear her very well, but Rob and I could hear each other just fine, right? Also, Linda, his girlfriend, she had one of the old G9 units, so we tried to bridge her in, and again, all we were hearing was static from her. It was just horrible for her, so she had to drop off. Well, after playing around with this pretty much all day on the ride, we figured out that it was actually the phone app that was causing the problem. Rob had his phone app open while we were riding, and for some reason that was causing interference in the communication network. So we shut that down. He actually even turned off Bluetooth on his phone, and then everything worked great. Now we could hear Kathy, she could hear us just fine, and we could actually bridge Linda in, and she could hear us and we could hear her as well. So we learned that you don't want to have your phone app up and running at the same time that you're actually out riding and in a group conversation. Use it to set the devices up, set the group up, but then shut it down. And again, you really don't need to have it open anyway. That's really the only quirk that we've found with these units, right? It does take a little practice to figure out how to set up a group and how to put your unit into Bluetooth mode versus DMC mode. But once you figure that out, it's all pretty simple, right? Again, just a couple of practice sessions and you'll have it down. Other than that, the network works much better than the Bluetooth network. The sound quality is much better, and the unit is easier to use. And I think that the battery life on these units is longer. Right? I've been able to go out on 2 rides without recharging mine, and I could never do that with the old G9 units. So overall, we're extremely happy with these, and looking forward to using them while we're on our trip to Alaska. And once again, thank you to everybody who keeps purchasing from Twisted Throttle through my website. Helps me out, greatly appreciated. And also, well, guess what? We now have 2 lawnmowers going, so I apologize for that. even though we've got 2 lawnmowers running on either side of me now. I'm going to try to get through this video. So again, thank you to all those folks out there who keep purchasing from Twisted Throttle by linking through my website. Again, the support is greatly appreciated. Also, remember, we are supporting Homes for Our Troops, a great cause for this Alaska trip. So head to my website at www.livingofftheslab.com and just donate whatever you can. Big donate button on the home page. $5, $10, whatever is greatly appreciated. It's a really great cause. They do a lot of great work, and we really appreciate all the support that people have been giving. All right, thanks guys. We'll talk to you next time.